Hey, welcome back. In this video, we're continuing to work on the Pulumi Schema Explorer. Last time we were able to add the release notes tab for a schema. I think I can find it somewhere here. Yeah, there it is. So we have the release notes and we rendered some markdown. Let me show you how that looks like right now, that I can also explain what we're going to do next. So compiling, server running, webpack compiling again. I think it's all good. So let's look at that. We need to select a plugin to work with. So I can select something like this, and I can see the release notes. This is what we did last time. So what I want to do today is being able to load third-party plugins. I talked a little bit about that in the previous video, and I said we can't just do that easily. So in this video I'll try to do that. So let's explain the problem. If we have a Pulumi AWS repository that is part of the Pulumi organization, what I'm doing simply is that after a release is loaded, when I choose a certain release, I immediately take the Pulumi/Pulumi dash part out, which leaves AWS, and I take this part and I stick it in the URL along with the selected release version. Now what this does is it looks up the plugin on my local machine, and if I don't have it, Pulumi will go out to GitHub and download it automatically. Now this automatic plugin acquisition works with Pulumi first-party plugins like Pulumi AWS, Pulumi AWSX. However, when it comes to third-party plugins like this one, we have Librix Labs Pulumi Scaleway. This is a third-party plugin. I can select it and I can indeed look at the releases because this is simply GitHub Search, right? I can click on a release, but it won't work. It will say it cannot find a file because Pulumi did not understand that this is a GitHub repository and that it needs to download the plugin from GitHub. So in this video I want to tackle this problem by making Pulumi detect, or having us detect, that this is indeed a third-party plugin and that we need to install the plugin manually. And once we've installed the plugin manually, we will have it in our local plugins, and then we can redirect back to the old ways using just the plugin name and the version, which will work when it's part of the local plugins. But when it's just a remote third-party plugin, we can't look for it. So yeah, let's get started and see how that works. So the way we do it is in the GitHub Search. GitHub or search GitHub. Yeah, this is the, where is it? It's somewhere here. I'm trying to look at the component. Yeah, so search GitHub is here, and we see here the select search, the drop down. Once it's changed, we look up the releases, and once the releases are changed, like this one, yeah, so the GitHub releases take a repo as input component, and once a release is selected with a certain version, the router navigates away, navigates to the repo / version, and it removes the initial part of the path with Pulumi / Pulumi dash. Now this doesn't work for third-party plugins, let's try to fix that. I think here we will have to make like a specific path, specific handling for non-first party plugins. So I think we can start matching repo split. Yes, so split this with in two parts. So we split the repo using the slash, and if the owner is Pulumi and repo name, so if the repo full name is Pulumi / some repo, when repo name starts with Pulumi - indeed, thank you GitHub Copilot, and then we can simply do this thing, right? We can simply navigate away. Like we can also say let first party Pulumi plugin is this thing, and then navigate, just to make it clear what we're doing here, because this is a first party Pulumi plugin. Otherwise, if we have an owner, so owner or GitHub user, it is not Pulumi, which means so GitHub user or organization or owner. I think owner makes more sense. And then we have a repo name. Again, it still follows the same condition. It still follows when repo name has to start with Pulumi - This is a convention that Pulumi expects from third-party plugins, so this is expected. The third-party plugin is the repo name with the Pulumi - part stripped away. That's good. And for anything else, well, I will have to figure something for anything else. But basically we could navigate to unknown unknown repo, basically unknown repo, something like that. When it comes to the third party Pulumi plugin, we will say that navigate a URL that is called third party plugin, and the name of the Pulumi plugin will be here. Yes, okay, let's start with owner, the plugin name, and the version. I think that's nice. The third party plugin, owner, name, and version. Okay, anything else is unknown, and then repo name, which means that this repo is not a Pulumi plugin or does not follow the conventions of Pulumi plugins. So now that we navigate to this URL, we need to account for it from the router. So if we go to the router all the way here, and now it only expects name and version, we need to be more specific and say, well, if you have third-party plugin with an owner, name, and version, then we have to do something. So this specific route combination does something, and in this case, this specific route combination, in this case, it will be a new component that we will call install third-party plugin, which we don't have yet, right? We don't have this thing yet. So let's see. Let's make a mock out of it. React component let, which takes owner, repo. Well, all of these things don't really exist yet. Install third-party plugin. Yeah, Copilot is trying to be smart here. Nope, that's not what I wanted to do. So let me just make some mock HTML paragraph. Install the repo plugin with the following commands. Well, let's say installing owner/repo version. Installing third-party plugin. Third-party plugin. Alright, this is extra. And now I think this will work. I just also need to account for unknown plugin URL. Where is it? Unknown Pulumi plugin. Yeah, unknown Pulumi plugin, which will unknown Pulumi plugin, which will show some HTML that selected repository is not a Pulumi plugin. Something like that. But the focus will be on the install third-party plugin, which will be responsible for talking to the server to tell it to install the plugin, and once that's successful, we will redirect to Pulumi Schema Explorer, because by the time the plugin is installed, we can assume that it's in the local cache and that it can be explored, right? So let's save. Go here. Start from scratch. Let's say Pulumi AWS, and we choose AWS. Choose a release, and it goes to just AWS as expected. That's good. But now if we have Pulumi Scaleway search, find it here. It does have releases, so click on one, and we have party plugin from this owner trying to install Scaleway version 1.60, and this is the right React component that is being shown. So this has to talk to the server, which talks to the Pulumi CLI to install the plugin. Let's see how we could do that. So in the shared, we need to add a new request, install the plugin. So install third-party plugin request, something like that. It will take owner string, it will take plugin name string, specific version, that's okay, and then install third-party plugin takes this request and returns what I want to say, async of unit I want to say async of unit, but this thing can fail. So let's do a result of unit and string for the error in case. I think that makes sense. So let's save for now. The server won't work because we've added a new function that we need to implement as always. So let's do that. GitHub pieces. Let's install third-party plugin. It takes a request of install third-party plugin request, and it does something. So it's a task, and it returns, for example, result of OK, which means that we can take it here. Do this. So this is the boilerplate required. Here we actually install the thing. I don't think it needs to be async, but let's do that anyways. So let's see. We need the command, and the command will be to wrap Pulumi. The arguments are indeed plugin install resource version / server. Okay, but this is not the right arguments. Let's see. It does not like this syntax. Okay, now it's good. So here actually arguments is Pulumi plugin install. Install what? Install the plugin name for this version. This server is actually using the GitHub protocol API GitHub / request owner. So this is what we're trying to do. This is the real bulk command. So we have these arguments. PC API GitHub. Yeah, that looks good. What we also want to do is with validation none. Good. Dot execute buffered async. Just go straight to the command, and if exit code is 0, then we return OK. Else we return the standard error. I think it would work. Alright, so this is the server-side implementation. Now let me see whether this actually works, because I have it here in the Schema Explorer, which means I can just go to not 5000 but pi doc, install third-party plugin. It takes owner, which is this repository. I can go to the readme, and there it is. So the owner is this one. Plugin name is Airway, and version is 1.6.0, I think. So let's try it out. I think it's doing okay. So it returned an okay. That means when I get the local plugins, I actually get Galway. It's somewhere here in the back. Oh, there it is. So that actually did the trick, which means that is all good. Just to be sure, I will Pulumi plugin remove Galway so that we can test how the UI works when we implement it. Yeah, Pulumi plugin resource. Delete this thing. All good. So now if I run it again, I no longer see Scaleway. Okay, good. That's good. So I know the install plugin thing works for third-party plugins. All right. Let's go back to the client and install third-party plugin. We'll do the thing, right? So let's I like to make inline functions for some reason because I don't want to make huge one-liners. So the request input is going to be owner plugin name and version, which then means that I can installation is React use deferred install third-party plugin using the request input, and this thing depends on the owner, the repo, and the version. That's good. That's good. And installation is of course a deferred of okay. So what we do is we render some kind of a loading statement thing when this is installing. So as always, deferred has not started yet. It gives us HTML none. Nothing happened. When it's in progress, we will throw some data. So we will say installing third-party plugin called repo. Should be really plugin name, right? I think that's easier or nicer. Plugin the version, and then ... I want to do something more, so yeah, so HTML div name is block, prop children will be this message, alongside with a progress bar. Oh yes, is small, is primary, and do not set a width, and do not set a value. So that's what we do when we're in progress. When we have failed, so deferred failed with an error, we render something. No. text will be just error message. So this is when we error out. I don't think we will, but just in case. And deferred, because we have two types of errors. When they request errors, this is the request. Here when the installation fails. So we have resolved error message. I think we can do the same thing, except then make a distinction that this is, for example, dark orchid and not so much red, because red is like a request error. So the final thing is deferred resolved OK of unit, right? This won't render anything, and the reason this won't render anything is we want to redirect when this happens, right? So we don't care about rendering when resolved OK, because when it does resolve to OK, we need to redirect. So this means that we need to make an effect, use effect, which, let's call it inline redirect when installed, which checks installation with deferred resolved A of unit. When this happens, we navigate not to third-party plugin, we navigate simply plugin and version, because at that point they are indeed locally resolved. And anything else, I could always do this, but I also like to say ignore. More clear what intentions are. So now effect is use redirect when installed, and it definitely depends on the installation. It does not know what this is. I think it just needs to box it. Yeah. So when you give it like a very specific thing like this, it should know that it shouldn't care about the type of the installation, of the type of the dependency. So this effect depends on installation. When installation changes, every time this check happens, and we check that the installation has resolved to OK, in which case we just navigate to that plugin. Alright, that looks good. Let's try that out. Oh my god, it just worked. That just worked right off the bat. Let's try that again on a different version. So Pulumi CLI, loading releases 1.4, installing third-party plugin CLI. That actually worked. Now it won't be automatically refreshed here, so I need to refresh, and I should see them both. That's really nice. Can I load release notes? No, I don't. For some reason. Don't know why it does. Because that's not an error, is it? I don't think so. Okay, that's really nice. That worked. So it has resources and functions, and again we see that different versions have more resources. It means we are getting close to the part where we implement the differ. Okay, so I think I'll call it a day for now after implementing this feature. Next up will be implementing a resource viewer. So when you click on a resource, you should see its inputs and outputs, and maybe more things around it, because we also have example usages, which is marked down, that need to be parsed in a very specific way, but we'll get into that later. But for now, I think making this work for third-party plugins was something I was a bit worried about and how that will work, but it works just fine, so I'm happy with that. I think I'll call that a day, and thank you for watching. We'll see you next time. Have a good one.